acceptance, that non-envious, that non-jealous being to get on with each other. And therefore, we say to boys, you should be like Ephraim and Manasseh. Be peaceful. Accept your lot. Try and improve yourself, of course. You don't have to accept your lot and just be destitute. You should always try and improve and make a better way you are in life. But understand what somebody else has is their lot, and that's what Hashem has given to them.
The descendants of Ishmael, the descendants of Esau, hate us to this day, and they've killed us throughout millennium.
Yes, they have. Yes, they absolutely have.
They're still doing it.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right.
It's also too, isn't it, that because Ephraim and Manasseh, they grew up in Egypt,
right,
and were able to survive that and still be involved with Torah study and good things.
So that's the other reason that the commentators point out, is that these two. One of the reasons why there's two main things. Reason why Joseph was called Hatzadik, the righteous one. Mm-hmm. One is because he had the wife of Potiphar throwing herself at him. Apparently, she was very beautiful. I have to remember at this point in Joseph's life, we don't know the fact that he was married to anybody else. So he was a young man, and there was this beautiful woman, and there's no one else around. Apparently, the commentators say that they got out to, there was games. They got out some kind of hunting games and that kind of thing. And there was no one else left in the house except this beautiful woman, and he rejects her, and he says he's not willing to commit that transgression. Similarly, while he was in Egypt, he didn't lose his identity as who he was as a Ben Yaakov, as a son of Jacob, and everything that represented. He kept that true monotheistic belief in his heart, and he kept all of the essence of who he was as a Ben Yaakov to him. And as a result of that, that's why he's titled Hatzadik, the righteous one. And similarly, by his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, we understand they stayed true to their father's beliefs, their father's way of living, in that moral, dignified way. And they did that while they were surrounded by a complete idolatrous culture in Egypt. We know it was idolatrous because when the Jewish people, when they were just about to leave Egypt, there's a reason why they slaughtered the lamb, is because that was the god of Egypt. As the night before we left Egypt, we slaughtered the lamb, we put the blood on the doorpost. Because we were saying to the Egyptians, your God, the lamb, it's nothing. There's only one God, and he is B'Shamayim, he's in the heavens, he's above, he's below, he's everywhere. And this God that you pretend to have of the lamb, it's nothing. That's what the significance of shechting, slaughtering the lamb was on Erev Pesach. So Ephraim and Manasseh, nevertheless, living in this idolatrous culture, hedonistic culture, they stay true to their father's beliefs, their father's strengths and oneness of God, belief in oneness of God. And therefore, we bless our children again. They want to be like these children, these sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. Wherever you may be, and the Jews have found themselves in all corners of this world, we should be strong like Ephraim and Manasseh. Wherever we are, we should stay true to our values of who we are as a people, and not let outside influences of society infiltrate the way we think and understand the world and our belief system. However, it's interesting, but by the girls, we say we should be like the foremothers, because really, see, perhaps I think that relates more to the first answer. See, girls don't. I know there's some disagreement before, and that's fine. Girls generally have not had the same warlike. You don't agree with me on that point. Women have been. Throughout history, women have not been the warriors. They've not been. There are a few exceptions, of course. But what's that? Oh, well, that's okay. So that's a whole different schmooze.
What did you say?
That is certainly true, and a woman is the Talmud refers to the woman as the bias. She's the home. She's the center of home. So that's certainly true. She maybe inside the four walls of the home. But I'm talking of in terms of classic war, that the men are more the warriors and the fierce ones. The women, on the other hand, since they're the ones who are trying to build the home, so in that respect, they want to be like the foremothers, the way that everything that they exemplified, their character traits, their kindness, their chesed, their giving. And we bless our daughters that they should be like them, because that is in particular where women want to focus their attention in building the home, as you say. And therefore, the way that the foremothers were able to build the Jewish homes, we bless our daughters to be like them. The sons, they blessed like Ephraim and Manasseh, that even in a place where they could be fighting, there should be peace. And that's an important thing. It's actually, in fact, on that theme, we actually see a very interesting point in this week's Parsha. As I said before, there's a continual theme throughout the book of Parshas, the book of Genesis, of this brotherly hatred, the wars, the fighting, and other things that I had mentioned, other things that I had not mentioned, additional stories that we see littered throughout the book of Genesis. And at the very end, in the last few verses, we finally see that it's Joseph that's actually able to stand up and right the wrongs, if you like, of everything that had been done, of all that brotherly hatred that he had with his brothers that perhaps represented all the other brotherly hatred in previous generations. If you look on page 289, 288, 289, as I mentioned before, the brothers were fearful that after Jacob's death, now he's going to go get him. Yeah. Look, after all, they'd slung him into the pit, then they brought him up, sold him down to Egypt, where he could have ended up as absolutely nothing, or a slave, or they could have sold him as essentially, ultimately would have been killed if he hadn't been worth much as a slave. And the brothers could think, okay, well, while the father was alive, we'll leave him alone. But now the father's dead, the brothers were fearful that Joseph's going to go after them. And they go to Joseph and they say, verse 16, they say, so they instructed that Joseph be told. In fact, let's go back to verse 15. Joseph's brothers perceived that their father was dead, 287, and they said, perhaps Joseph will nurse hatred against us, and then he will surely repay us the evil that we did to him. They know that they did something real wrong. So they instructed that Joseph be told, your father gave orders before his death, saying, this you shall say to Joseph, oh please, kindly forgive the spiteful deed of your brothers, and their sin, for they have done you evil. In fact, that was a bit of a white lie, the commentators point out. Jacob never really quite said that. But they made that up in order to go, that this message get back to Joseph, that your father had said this, that leave them alone, so that he would then leave them alone. In other words, they're fearful of their own life, and they felt in that case it was permissible to lie. But we never really see that Jacob actually had said those particular words. So now please forgive the spiteful deed of the servants of your father's God. And the verse says that Joseph wept when they spoke to him. He wept because he's like, this whole thing wasn't necessary. He understood that they were lying. And that's why he's crying. He's like, that's how bad the situation of our family has got. They've got to make up a lie because they're so scared about what's going to be now that our father is dead. And he's crying. He's sitting there in front of them, and he's wailing, he's weeping. And then the brothers, they fling themselves at Joseph and they say, we're ready to be your slaves. In other words, they'd rather be slaves than lose their lives. And Joseph says to them...
Also, they had to bow down in front of them. Because of the dream.
Right,
yeah, the dream.
Right, absolutely. The dreams, everything in the dreams ultimately becomes 100% true. They bow down to him, they subservient to him. We saw that even earlier in previous chapters, that had already been fulfilled. But this is certainly a completion of that, of the prophecy from the dream. Absolutely. Joseph responds to them as he's sitting there with tears trickling down his face. 11 brothers circle him, fearful for their life. What's going to be, of course, Joseph is the viceroy at this particular juncture again. And Joseph says, fear not, for am I instead of God? Hatachas Elokim,
Beautiful
Ani,
verse.
am I in the place of God? Although you intended me harm, God intended it for good, in order to accomplish. It is as clear as this day that a vast people will be kept alive. So fear not, I'll sustain you, you young ones. And he comforted them and he spoke to their heart. It's amazing. We've gone through this whole thing, in the whole book, in this whole book of Genesis. Yeah.
The series of events, the way they happened, had to be that way. Otherwise, there would never have been an ending the way it was. They had to go from point A to B to C to D to E, F in order to get to G.
Right.
So
And that's exactly what Joseph is saying.
Yeah.
He understood that. But of course, that's much better than the previous generations, even the relationship, the relationship he had with his brothers when they were younger,
Yeah.
which was one of stress and strain and of Lashon Hara. Now, finally, we've been able to do something that we weren't able to do throughout the whole of the book of Genesis, which is to create this shalom. We've finally created peace. And yeah.
Feel that this is an affirmation of Hashem when way Joseph answers him. I mean, he's affirming the belief in God.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
That is exactly what he's doing. But, well, yeah, go on.
When he prophesied that 11 things would bow down to him, whatever, there were only 10 brothers at that point beside him.
Mm.
So he also was prophesying that he knew Benjamin would be born. Because Benjamin wasn't, when they sold him into slavery, Benjamin wasn't even alive, is that right?
No, he was alive. He was alive. No, he had been born. He had been born previous Parshas.
They have to bring him
No,
down.
but that's them, but when he had the dream,
He'd already been born.
Remember Rachel died?
Rachel
Yeah.
he was already born. He was
On the
already
way.
born.
He was already
but
born.
he said Benjamin had nothing to do with what you guys did to me.
Well, I mean, that was true. I mean, he was his full brother, but that
Well, he
it still
may have
doesn't.
been-
It
I think
still
he was
didn't
very
mean.
young then.
Yeah, it still didn't mean that he wasn't part of the overall brotherhood of that they bowed down to him.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You're raising a good point. Benjamin was certainly born when he was sold to slavery.
Right.
It was the sons of Leah that sold him. That's pretty clear. I mean, if you look at the beginning of the book of the Parsha of Vayechi, Moshe, I'll come to you in 1 minute. In the book of Vayechi, it says that Joseph was a Na'ar, he was a lad with the sons of Zilpah and Bilhah.
Yeah.
In other words, those 4 sons, Gad, Dan, Naphtali, and Asher, he hung out with them, he was friends with them. Binyomin with his young brother, he's less in the picture. It was the 6 sons of Leah, Rashi says that explicitly,
exactly.
who he was bringing Lashon Hara, negative reports, to his father Jacob about. So really, most of the tension is with the sons of Leah. The other 5 sons get included in that too, though, as it seems in the later Parshas. But you're raising an interesting point. You're asking a good point. Why did Benjamin need to also be bowing? This is his full brother. What did he ever do? It's a fair point. I hear that. I think he gets included in that general thing. He wasn't sure where he stood, perhaps.
But he favored Benjamin because, like, he gave him 5 things, as opposed to the others getting 1.
Right.
That's his real
Right,
brother. from
right.
his
That's his
mother.
full brother.
Yeah.
Moshe, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to understand this thing when he says, ואתם חשבתם עליי לרעה,
Yeah.
אלוהים חשבה לטובה למען כיום הזה להחיות עם רב.
Right.
When you say עם רב, it means that to save them from starving, Bnei Israel?
Yeah, it's referring to this big nation.
The
I mean, really, everybody in that region.
But from starving, that was the...
Yeah, exactly. Because it was Joseph who was the dream interpreter, the prophet, who was able to tell Pharaoh what's going to happen, and we better start during the 7 years of plenty, saving our reserves. Yeah.
But they thought that because he was mocking them with the dreams, right? Telling them that I was dreaming that I'm the flower and
those are separate dreams though.
Yeah,
those were his own dreams. The dreams that were able to save the nation of Egypt that he's referring to over here that I was essentially sent here in order to save this Rav, this big nation. Those were the dreams of Pharaoh that he interpreted.
No, but why they thought bad on him? Because of those things, that he was mocking them all the time, right?
Right, yes. That's why they didn't like him. That was one of the things that created envy. I mean, his father had also made him this tunic, this special coat. They didn't like that too much either. But anyway, the point is that we see at the end of this Parsha is that everything finally now is b'shalom. Everything is peaceful. It's where it should be. Mm-hmm. It's that it's individuals, and particularly Joseph HaTzadik, able to see the hand of God involved in everything. Mm-hmm. Look, most of us would say, look, if a brother or sister had cast us out of the house and not answered a phone call or not offer us a meal when we were down and destitute, we wouldn't have much to say for them and probably fall out for them forever, in reality. And perhaps we know many people who've fallen out with siblings and don't speak with them. And that's a sad thing. Yosef says, you know what? Hakol b'dei Shemayim. Everything's in the hands of heaven. Mm-hmm. He created this whole thing. He completely reframed his way of seeing this whole, what would have been a terrible negative situation, and understood that it was part of a whole destiny of where the Jewish people would be.
With being among the first to say it's all in God's hands.
He's certainly one of them.
Says, among the first.
Right. I think that, yeah. All right, I think it's past 9 o'clock. We'll end there. It's been wonderful learning with everybody.
Thank you.
Wish you all a very good evening.
Thank you.
Why did they embalm Jacob?
That's a great question, actually. He was, even the Egyptians understood that he was of a regal nature, of a high nature. Right. And therefore he was almost given basically a royal.
Well, they embalmed Joseph too.
Right.
Yeah.
That was to preserve him until he could be buried, because they have a long mourning period.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But why he sent to them, "Vatem chashavtem alai ra'a," because of those things? Why he say that to them?
Oh, the Ra'ah part.
"Vatem chashavtem alai ra'a."
I think he's saying you thought that I was going to do something bad to you. That's what it means. Yes, that's what it means. You thought because of everything that's happened, now I'm going to do bad to you. Right, but God, right, that's what it means.
Because for a second I thought maybe, because after that he said that, and God saw the good in him, right?
That's right.
I didn't read it for many years.
That's all right. How long have you lived in America for?
8 years.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm looking to move. Then I'm a truck driver.
You're a truck driver?
Nice to meet you, Rabbi.
Oh, nice to meet you. All the very best. Yeah, the truck driver. That's nice. Where do you drive?
Tractor trailers.
Around the country?
No, now I stopped because I want to move first.
Yeah. Very nice. You like it in America?
No,
You moved back?
I wish my wife doesn't. I don't feel home here, to be honest with you.
It's not home.
There's no one day that I don't see the history stories.
What's that?
Every day I see the Jews, man. You don't see it because they don't know I'm Jew. If I put it in, nobody knows.
What do they
I'm
say
Jew.
about Jews?
A lot
Bad
of
things?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Granddad, you heard.
You want to tell me you don't know where you live?
Where do you say you're from when they ask?
Depends who I'm talking to. Some Cyprus, I said.
Really?
Yeah. Because if I say Spanish, there's a lot of people speak Spanish.
Right.
You say Cyprus.
Nobody speaks that.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, you could be a Cypriot. I can see that. Do you ever say you're from Lebanon or anything?
No, because right away the
What?
I don't like that either.
yeah.
Cyprus is okay.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's tough. Good night. Nice seeing you.
Depends who I'm talking with. You
It's
know?
tough. Yeah. Remind me of your name again?
Benson.
Benson.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
You live around here?
Rabbi Davis.
Davis.
Okay. People call you Dave or David or
Binyomin is fine.
Binyomin? That's
Yeah.
better, yeah.
Where do you live?
Right? Elkins Park, very close to
Oh, you
there.
do?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
So Binyomin, can you write me a couple of streets here that I can look for something to rent?
Something to rent?
Yeah, I don't want to buy now until I know exactly where I want to
Yeah,
go.
I mean, there's just down here. Just down.
This one?
Yeah, at the end of the street, there's the red brick. There's a red brick apartment complex. Just a few meters down.
I want to rent a house.
Oh, you want a house? That's not going to be Pasha. That's Zelot Pashut.
No? I'm paying $2,000 right now.
Yeah, well, okay. You might be able to sign something for that, but not much. That's the
To rent? You couldn't find?
So much more money
Look
that
at
it's
cut.
not, that would be.
$2,500 מצאתי.
$500?
Yeah.
Wow.
4 חדרים. I mean, bedrooms, 4 bedrooms.
I can't reach it.
הרבה כסף.
בגלל המס, ממש גבוה.
יותר מלנסדל?
I can't reach it.
That's it.
The top one.
כל בית בינוני משלמת
משלם.
I just wanted to talk to you.
$8,000.
1,800.
לא,
$1,800.
8,000.
8,000?
8,000 for the property tax.
A year?
Yeah.
Wow.
For the average house right here, I pay more than that. I have a big house.
So you pay $600 taxes?
I pay $1,000 a month for tax.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of.
Yeah, Elkins Park. That's the bad thing about this neighborhood. Now, if you get a rent, if you rent a dira, it's not so bad.
Also,
Do
Laura
you rent?
Marion is
Do
not
you live over
expensive?
here
Yeah, close, very close here. Yeah,
in the apartments?
in a house.
There's a lot of Jewish here.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Jews here. Yeah.
No, there are. It's
You
not.
can, if you're not rent a house, you can find a house.
Oh, excuse me, I just.
Just
wanted
like-
to-
I don't know where you go to look. You have to look online. Just go look online. House rental Elkins Park. Google that.
There are like a lot of sales, and
I
like
just
some people are
wanted
gonna
that
like let you rent their houses.
So Laura Marion is going to be cheaper than here as far as the taxes?
Why can't
I think so. Yeah, taxes here are high.
Why?
Huh?
It's the township
Like
one.
they don't have like a lot of like businesses to like help out. So like most of the burden falls to individuals' houses. So like if they had like huge malls and huge businesses here, it'd be lower.
Ah, because they don't have anything?
They don't have like a lot of businesses. Yeah, that's why.
Ah.
Yeah.
So that's out of the question.
Yeah, and then we have like yeah, school's expensive, all that. Yeah.
It's still recording, by the way.